Okay, here we go. We're going to start that over. Hi, I'm Angela Moonen, and welcome to Living Well today. And I want to introduce this new concept of once a month on the show. I'm going to do a story hour where I invite you to share your true story about your entrepreneurial journey, your creative passions, things that inspire you, how you cultivate courage, how you cultivate your path in the world for sharing more and more of yourself, more and more of your authentic journey. And I want to share this slide, a couple of slides actually, that I made. And that is that creativity takes courage. It takes courage to show up. It takes courage to fail. And there can't be creativity without failure. How else do any of us ever learn? There's a conversation I have often with different clients about when things are tough is when your faith is challenged. When creativity, when you're putting yourself out there, when you're opening yourself up to your own muse and letting God, letting the universe, letting consciousness channel through you, um, that takes courage. Not everyone does that. And so I wanted to take some time today to talk about what does that look like? Creativity is through the eyes of the beholder, just as beauty is. What is creative? It's anything that brings something new to life. And it doesn't mean a new idea, because you could take a very old idea and make it your own, put your own unique fingerprint on it. And when an artist, we think of artists in the sense that they are painters, they are dancers, they are musicians, they are digital media artists. Yes, all that's true. An artist could also be someone who creates beauty and something new in the garden, the way that they present a meal, the way that they enter a room and engage an audience. So, if you can, for a moment, we are all taught that we're not creative. Every child that's born believes they're creative and of God, and that they doodle on the page, and they're not afraid to take risks. They're not afraid to explore their own becoming, their own creativity. And um, I've had this conversation with my daughter. It's a function of our public school system. I've had this conversation with her about, um, I look back when she was little, and she would draw all of these amazing things. Even if it was stick figure, you could see the creativity, the ingenuity in it, the storytelling, the story that was unfolding through her and for her and with her on the page, and the colors and the sayings and the she has this, in fact, there's this beautiful that she drew in the rainbow heart in all these different colors, and inside it, she just wrote the word love. And I think she was maybe 4 or 5 when she did that. And through the years, the public school system, I really, really wanted her and her dad divorced when I was very young, and she was very young. And I really wanted her to go to a Montessori school. A Montessori school, to me, Maria Montessori said that everyone creates in a different way, and everyone um, their own expression comes to them in their own time, that we don't put all the same kids in the same grade, and that we let them engage and we let them learn in this immersive environment as opposed to the public school systems. So I always wanted my daughter to go there, and my ex-husband, fought me on that. So my daughter did go through the public school system, and I could see as the years went on of how she became less and less creative, less and less of a storyteller. And I find it absolutely um, encouraging that more and more art schools, performing arts schools, schools bringing in and supporting their arts programs are taking more root. And there's a beautiful, absolutely amazing um, high school here in Jacksonville that is a performing arts high school that's known around the country. And they do this once a year display of performance, etc., at the Cummer Museum here in Jacksonville. And they bring in casting directors and choreographers and conductors and all from people from all walks of the arts in the professions to come in and see these blooming students, these amazing becoming adults. So creativity takes courage, and exposing yourself to that rawness of something new that hasn't been seen before, that hasn't been created before in your way, it takes courage. And the next slide that I have, new thinking, anything new for that matter, takes courage. And so as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing all the time. You're doing new thinking, what if thinking, possibility thinking. That's incredibly powerful. And it takes courage. But anything that doesn't has probably already been done before, and never stretches us to those new heights, those new possibilities, that new potentiality. I worked with a client once that we designed a promise for them, for their organization, for their nonprofit organization. And it was called People with Potential. They had previously talked about disabilities and special needs, and that their residents and their students had disabilities instead of abilities. And so we posed the question, what if everyone here is a person with potential? And as creators, as new thinkers in this new world that we're entering, I think it's so exciting to shine a light on potential and to hold space, that you can believe that that person, whenever I work with a client, I always see them as big as the universe, as big as they are, endless. Because in holding that space for them and seeing them in through that lens, it allows them the space to see and become that for themselves. So when we talk about creativity, I see it in all sorts. Yes, in painting and beautiful works of art and architecture and dance and music. And I see that, yes. But I also see creativity in the workplace. I see it in our leaders. I would love for each of us to consider the possibility of fostering it further in our workplaces and fostering it further with our leadership. And that really begins with ourselves, because it's always an inside job. So my question to you would be, what do you see yourself as a creative, as a creator? as a co-creator, because it's never a solo act. We get inspiration from somewhere, from our muse, from God, from the collective consciousness, from an ancestor, a mentor. It's never a solo act. It's always in cooperation with someone or something. Do you see yourself as that creator? If you are living, breathing, walking this planet, number one, you are already courageous. Number two, you are automatically a creator because breath is coming through you. You cannot not be a creator. The words that come out of your mouth. And the thoughts and the actions. And if you keep a beautiful home or a beautiful garden, you love to make a beautiful meal, you are a creator. So I ask you, in what ways are you inspired? What lights you up? How can you find in the smallest things that measure of new thinking, of new creating? And when I interview different guests, the commonality, the theme has been they love being interviewed by me. Why is that? That's been a pattern. And I've never really done much in the way of interviewing. I mean, I had a show on PBS many years ago called Cycle of Health, and I did 3 seasons, I think, for that. And I did some interviewing then. I mean, I've always been involved in some kind of business development, sales, presentation, etc. So, and performance. So there's always been some measure of that, but never really in a more formal way, like the Living Well Today show has been. And so I'm going to invite, I just saw, I've seen a couple of people come in. I'm going to invite Deanne and Joan. I'm going to ask you to unmute and to share your video if you so choose. I would love to see you come in and share your story and talk a little bit about what it is that inspires you, where you're at on your path. Deanne and Joan, if you're open and amenable to doing that, I invite you to do that. When I look at my next chapter, I had a conversation earlier today with someone in preparation for their coming on the show in a couple of weeks. And I was talking with them, just doing my own prep and background and giving them some context. I don't often give all of the questions because I think that it takes away the spontaneity and the sparkle of the conversation in some way. But I do give them some context so they don't feel as though, oh, there's Deanne's muted herself. Hello, Deanne. Are you open to having your video on, love?
Sure.
Okay. Welcome. So I was just talking about how, and I want to have, I'll change it to the gallery view so we can see you once you have your video on. And when I was talking with them, I was including the idea that I don't know that I would ever retire. Somebody, hello,
Morning.
beautiful. Um, and that's a different perspective for different people of whether they would retire. Some people look toward it all their lives. But it means different things to different people, I think. In some cases, retirement means out of the corporate, proverbial rat race. For some, it means they get to go to their cabin on the lake and spend more reflective time with their family or their partner or on their own. It means not having to punch a clock. It means lots of things. And I haven't punched a clock other than maybe for an early flight. I haven't punched a clock in 25 years. So to me, I believe that I'll always be contributing. I'll always be. And I think part of that creativity is, what's the next chapter? What do I want to write for myself? How would I like the story to read? How can I be of service? Do any of those things resonate with you, Deanne, for where you're at in your journey?
Oh, totally, Angela. By the way, good morning. I'm in Hawaii, so it's a little after 7 in the morning.
Aloha! Aloha!
I wasn't actually prepared for this, but
Oh, I love it. I love that. I love it. Well, we're being spontaneous.
yes.
Sometimes that creates the most magic.
So you asked about essentially retirement. My career was I managed a medical clinic, and it was a surgical clinic.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
along the
Yeah.
way, I developed an autoimmune condition, so I started studying energy healing.
Oh,
So
wow.
then I studied with Dr. Robert Jaffe for a couple years in California. And then I brought the energy healing into a private practice working with surgical patients from our practice. So people would say I had like one-stop shopping.
How
And
was it? How was it received, Deanne? I'm curious. How was that received, the healing within the surgical practice?
so I started out working with breast cancer patients, and women with breast cancer are willing to do anything. And so this was a new opportunity for them to explore their actually, first of all, tell their story.
Yeah.
Physicians don't often have the time to listen to their story of how they got to this situation of facing their mortality. And so we would listen to their story, and I would be working in their energy field at the same time. Well, then
Oh,
what happened is
beautiful.
my husband is a surgeon. He was in that practice. He got hepatitis C from a needle stick from a patient. We closed his practice within a week because he didn't want to expose anybody. And they gave him essentially 10 years because there's no cure at that point. There was no cure for hepatitis C. So we retired. We bought a condo in Hawaii. We live in Seattle with our family the rest of the year. We go back and forth, and we literally got on to living each day knowing that he pretty much had a timeline. I was still doing energy healing remotely because I didn't need my office. You can do energy healing. There's no time or space with energy. So it moved
That's
with
right.
where we went. And so at about 10 years, he had moved on to liver cancer, liver failure, and was really close to death, at which point the treatment came out for hepatitis C. He got treated in 1 month. The virus is essentially gone, and he got an offer for a liver. So he had a liver transplant. So the new liver was happy in this home without hepatitis. And so we went on to a new phase of our life now. He's going to live.
My goodness, my hair is straight up on both of my arms, right?
So my retirement has been a situation with a feeling with fear,
Yes.
not knowing what the future would bring, but does anybody,
Mm.
you know?
No.
And
When
then
you say timeline, I even thought of that because who knows what their
who
timeline
knows?
really
Who
is.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
I got introduced to Master Lama Rasaji a couple years ago, and so I am doing Tai Chi Kung and all the stuff that, with him. So that
Yes.
brings me a whole different level of future.
Well, yes, and longevity, and really, really embracing all, yet another dimension or dynamic of longevity and living at a very high quality of life in that longevity as well, right? Because there are people who live a long life, but they're living in a shell of some of themselves, right? It's just of what remains. There is not a lot of, there's enough vitality to keep them alive,
Yes.
keep them
It,
breathing, but they're not creating, they're not doing new thinking, they're not, as we opened this up today, courage to be creative, the courage to get a condo in Hawaii. Now, what and people say, what courage do? Well, that's a it's a beautiful, bold step, but it's a big step, and that takes courage. Can you share with me where, on which island are you, what part of the world in Hawaii are
Sure.
you in?
So we're on Oahu and
Okay.
we're out in a very remote area called Ko'olina.
Paulina. Yeah,
Ko'olina.
okay.
And
Okay.
we have unobstructed ocean view. I can walk there in 20 seconds.
Mm.
But the interesting thing, Angela, is the transplant surgeon who did my husband's surgery. Every year on the anniversary of surgery, Bob would send him a photo of him being healthy and usually with a big marlin that we had caught in Hawaii. So
Mm.
last year, this doctor called us. We never talked to him since surgery. He called us and he says, I'm going to retire and I'd like to see your lifestyle. So he came and stayed with us for a week and he caught a 200-pound marlin. So,
Of course.
and then we became
Which,
very,
by
very
the
good
way, takes
friends.
courage.
Yes,
That is
we
no
have a
small
boat
feat.
here and a boat in Seattle. And so in the summer we cruise in Seattle. And so he came boating with us this summer and he caught his first salmon. And he said it changed his life. And he had retired, but then he realized he still had more to offer. And so he is now doing research for how to do stem cell therapy on young children who've had transplants so that they don't need to be on medication the rest of his life. And he was inspired by us to live a full life. He's 68 years old and now starting a new career.
Well, and I think that and I think more than ever, and I've read articles on this, that women in particular, but both men and women, as they're entering this phase out of the old chapter and creating a new chapter, well into their 60s and 70s and 80s, starting anew. And I think that what's so beautiful about that is, as you point out, Deanne, is that there's so much beauty and wisdom and like a childlike enthusiasm coming from generations of people who, even 10 years ago, my generation and younger generations might have, and this is a terrible phrase, but I've heard it and read about it, just written them off as, oh, well, they saw their glory days, they had their
Right.
glory days. And for me, I think what's so exciting is that I think glory days can be there right until you decide to transition, into a different form. And I'm fascinated. I want to go back for a minute, if I can, to the energy healing that you were doing in the surgical practice. I'm not sure if you were able to catch the episode of Stepping into Your Power where I had Folly Shaw on, but Folly is a healer. She's from India. She owns a homeopathic
I
holistic
saw it.
spa here in Jacksonville. And I just had a recent run in with an unbelievable, and I'll get into that in a moment. She did a pranic healing on me from India. And in less than 12 hours, it began dissipating. And within 2 to 3 days, it was completely gone. It was amazing to witness, and it's inspired me to want to understand more about the pranic healing. But what modality did you, what did you, was it Reiki, Deanne? Was it, what, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have had training in Reiki. However, that is not what I ultimately ended up doing. I um the healing room was not in the clinic. The healing room was in our home. And
Okay.
so I had crystals within the room. It was more wah wah woo woo than I could have done at a surgical clinic. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
Crystals,
That makes sense.
music, aromatherapy, all of that just to relax their energy field. Before we started, we would bring in the guides, angelic guides, ask them who they would want to join us, just settle into the energy. And then literally I would do a scan of their body and do colors.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And yeah, the scan with colors, go through the chakras, and then I would put hands above their body. I didn't touch them, and feel where I could feel the congestion and open up that area so that it flowed through their body. And
So facilitating that flow,
yes,
facilitating that flow. Because the
right.
body is designed, etherically and otherwise, the physical body as well, designed to heal.
Yes.
It's designed to repair
Yeah.
itself. And so it's those congestions, those blockages that prevent that flow, prevent that healing, or slow it down from happening. And I had a real quickly. So this is just, and I just saw Marilyn, a dear friend of mine, Marilyn, and she was on the show actually a couple of weeks ago. Hello, Marilyn. Um, so this is a new story for you, Marilyn. You're not aware of this because you and I haven't reconnected since I've been on a tour for the last 28 days. I just arrived. I'm literally just arrived back in my home in Jacksonville this morning, like 2 hours ago, after having been gone for 28 days. So, so I'm just loving it, being in my own space again. And, but I had a couple of years ago, I had a rhinoplasty. I had some work done because my nose, the end of my nose was collapsing. And so I went in and they strengthened it. But after they did that, there was like this ridge. They didn't break my nose, they didn't do anything like that. But for whatever reason, the surgery created this settling between where the bone meets the cartilage in your nose, because of course this is not all bone, right? The bone stops way up here and then the rest is cartilage. So I went in a year ago and I said to, as a follow-up to the doctor, and I said, this ridge, and he said, well, we can put a little bit of filler in there to fill the ridge. And I thought, okay, I don't know. I mean, I don't want my nose to look like it's broken, because it was kind of looking like it was broken. I said, okay, well, let's try it. Well, he did it. And within a matter of a couple of minutes, it looked perfect. It was beautiful. I thought, oh, that's great. What a solution. And he said, you may never have to have it again, but you may have to, in a year, you have to come back and we'll do it one more time. And then you should probably never have to do it again because it doesn't really degrade in that area like it may in other areas. I said, okay. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, um, 1 week into my tour, I am in New York. I go to this doctor and he says, okay, we're going to do it again. He does the first couple and it looks instantly, like within seconds, it looks great. He goes, oh, that looks great. Because, I'm going to do just a little bit more on this side for good measure. I said, okay. And he did it. And when he did it, I instantly had a really severe reaction. And it began cutting the blood flow off through my capillaries. He had hit a vessel with the needle. And when he retracted, I learned this afterwards from another surgeon. When he retracted the needle, he didn't do it properly. And so it didn't close off. And or it whatever it did to the vessel where it stopped the blood flow. And it was spidering all over my face. And I blanched very white, what he was calling blanching, which was where the blood flow was cut off. It was very scary. And the nurses run in and he's leaves the room and comes back and they're compressing it with a warm compress. They're doing this. Well, what he likened it to is it's like if you shut a faucet off and then you turn the faucet back on. That's what happens when you get frostbite. You lose blood flow to these areas. I said, so are you saying I'm going to experience the effects of frostbite on my face? And he said, yes. And I mean, I was speechless. I started to cry. I said, I don't understand. You have to explain to me scientifically what's going on. And he did. And he said it's going to take many, many weeks and everything's going to peel. And I thought, oh my goodness, for this one little, I thought, oh, I mean, I was devastated. So I was watching it and I felt like I had a brain freeze for 4 or 5 days. Have you ever had a brain freeze where it, oh, that feeling, and it didn't go away for 4 days, 5 days, way up here? And I'm like, what does that have to do with down here, right? But it's like the branches of a tree. It's all connected. And so I called Folly. through WhatsApp because she's in India. And you talked about where you could be at home, the energy happens anywhere, any place, anytime. You don't have to be in the same room, the same state, the same country. In fact, there's this, I think in some senses, I would love to hear your input on this, Deanne, some potency in the fact that she was in India where she was doing this for me, so far away. And she was actually at a retreat, and her sister is even more in-depth practiced healer. And they do pranic healing. They do Reiki. She's a Reiki master, etc. But they do pranic healing and working in the aura, etc. As you were talking about. And she messaged me at 3 a.m. because of course there it's like 4 p.m. the next day. So she said, "We're working on you now, my sister and I both." I woke up in the morning and I looked, I read the message. I went to the mirror, I looked, it looked better. And she messaged me a couple of hours later. We're doing it again. We're doing more work. A few hours later, it looked better yet again. And her sister did healing on me for 2 or 3 days in a row. And it was gone. I mean, it's this is just 3 weeks ago and it's perfect. And
Fabulous.
and the surgeon said this will take weeks and weeks and you are going to peel and you are going to, well, I mean, I got to that stage of it being raw and starting to peel. It was quite raw. I photographed it all the way along because I thought no one's going to believe how horrendous this looks. And I had some shows and I had some filming and things to do. I was like caking on the makeup. I was
Oh
telling the
no.
producer, just make sure with the lighting that, you light me from this side. I mean, you couldn't believe what it looked like. And that was 3 weeks ago. It's perfect now, but it's been perfect for
Awesome.
a while. It's a testament to the healing. And when you said, Deanne, about you never touched them,
Mhm.
um, there's Buddhist monks are doing this in Emory University with where they're doing these remote surgeries. So when the doctor is going in and doing the surgery on the actual patient, the monk is meditating and doing an energetic surgery in the same fashion on that patient. And they're
Lovely.
measuring, isn't that fascinating? I mean, and they're
Lovely.
measuring the outcomes of surgeries with the energetic surgery and those without.
That's awesome.
Um, isn't that amazing? I mean, to
It's
see that
awesome.
integration
Mhm.
finally of Eastern and Western and this new emergence of understanding and a consciousness and awareness around it. And I would love, I mean, imagine the work that you were doing. Imagine if every surgery center had a connection with a group of people that were intentionally aligning with their efforts and supporting their patients in that way.
So Angela, in the beginning, that was my desire, was to be in the operating room. Our clinic was right next to the hospital, just a walkway across. And I thought that is where I should be. In order to get my Ascent certification, I needed to have some practice first before I would go to the hospital to talk to administration. So I had about 1,000 patients before I graduated from this class.
Wow.
And by then I was so busy and I could manage my own time, and I was still managing the surgical clinic. We had 30 doctors. And so ultimately administration, was butting me against too much liability, blah, blah, blah. And so I just kept my own practice going. And then when we
Yes.
retired so quickly, I could open up my time more. And then I kind of dropped the whole hospital idea. But I do agree with you. It would be fabulous.
Do you see a time, Deanne, in our lifetime anyway, that you think that they will be more open
I
to that?
do.
Because Folly said the same thing. She was working with a
do.
hospital here in Jacksonville, and it was in primarily cancer patients, and they would not allow her.
Mhm.
She had a separate unit there at the hospital, and then certain doctors that were amenable would say to their patient, you might consider trying this. And so predominantly women would come to her and she would work with them in this separate space. But she said the same thing, that
Mhm.
over time it was just too much closed-mindedness, too much, we've done it this way. This is our protocol, et cetera, et cetera. And do you ever see a time in our lifetime anyway that you think that will shift?
I do believe that. I feel it. I picture it. I know it will happen.
That's beautiful. I'm going to turn, my thing is saying that my battery is running low and my computer's plugged in, so I'm thinking the extension cord is turned off. Let me turn it on for 1 second.
Yeah.
Hopefully that did it.
Good.
Yes. So when, well, that's wonderful, because if you think about the potentiality of that alone, um, and being able to draw on that which is most natural for us, and again, the body's ability to heal itself if those blockages are taken away. So what is your next chapter? So you're living the life in Oahu and you have your family and friends in Seattle. How do you see the next chapter for you unfolding?
Um, well, it involves Master Lama Rasaji.
Are you going to be teaching? Are you doing the teacher
I
certification?
I am not teaching. My plan is to just transmute so I can be in different places at the same time. I'm working on that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I want to hear about your progress with that. And how about your husband? Where does he
Well,
see himself, and how is his story unfolding from here?
so he is thriving, and we have a boat in both places, Seattle and here, and so that's his life, is working on the boats, keeping them um, operational, and fishing and inviting people out, and yeah. So as we came out of COVID,
Hosting.
yeah, as we came out of
Hosting.
COVID, and when we were all so kind of secluded in Hawaii, we could be outside all the time. And if we had friends over, we just didn't invite them into the condo. We would sit on the lanai and wear masks. But our
Yes.
community here is a very strong community of people who come here in the winter from where their other homes are. And so we're
Okay.
just joyful in seeing each other as we all congregate. We just came back last week, and so we'll be here until April. Um, we do go back to Seattle for the holidays to be with our family and
Lovely.
have
And
3 grandkids.
can you talk about, have you felt, was there a shift in energy at all in Oahu around all that had transpired on Maui and Lahaina and those
Oh,
areas?
yes. Oh, it was just a collective grief. Yeah,
Mm,
really sad, but an outpouring of money, to get into Lahaina to help rebuild the food banks. Um, there's a energy enhancement center there that they stayed open 24 hours so that pets could come in and sleep there safely. Children
yes.
could come in and sleep and have this energy worked on them to relieve the anxiety. There, it was stronger here for sure. The
Yes.
emotive, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And, much like you seeing it, things opening to possibility and potentiality around healing within the Western medicinal structure,
Mhm.
um, this, out of all of this, there will have to be a rebirth
Yes.
of something bigger, better, even more evolved on multiple levels. That's the natural cycle of things, right?
Right,
So
right.
I we're here. I'm back. And sure enough, hello, love. And sure enough, what I did have it plugged in properly. It was the piece that had pulled away, and I couldn't tell that it had pulled away. So
Oh,
there we go. We're all back. Sorry about that. Thank you for
good.
your patience. But yeah, so when you think of creativity, how would you characterize it? I know I began this session talking about creativity takes courage and new thinking takes courage. How would you characterize for you when you think of creativity for yourself, for where does it come from for you? How do you cultivate it in yourself and allow it to come through you?
Yeah, so recently, so I'm 78 years old. I have done a lot of cooking in my life, and I was getting really blah about it. So I decided to engage in a course that brings me online cooking every week with all these new recipes. And so I'm loving them. There, a lot of them are plant-based. And so I'm like, how come I didn't think of that? These great new recipes. I've been cooking so long. Why didn't I think of doing that? And it's like, duh, I need to spark up a little bit. But I've been doing 2 new recipes for dinner every week now for almost a year, and it's been fabulous. So it came to me. I had to pay for it, but it came to me.
Well, isn't that, did you ever see that? What is that movie that's based on Julia Child's life?
Yes.
Julia,
Julia.
right? And
Yes.
she's cooking her way through Julia Child's cookbook,
Yeah.
and it's such a great story. And Meryl Streep did such an amazing job,
Yeah.
playing her. But that's wonderful. Yeah, I think cooking and food and presentation, and I did a companion video with in Marilyn's kitchen, Marilyn Gilman on my show from a couple of weeks ago. We did she's an amazing cook. She doesn't get the opportunity to cook as often anymore, but she loves it, and she's fascinated with the way that ingredients work together,
Mm.
and the flavors and how they integrate and come together, the flavor profile of different things. And so yeah, I mean, I believe cooking is an incredible creative art, and anyone who's been to a restaurant or someone's kitchen where they are taking a lot of love and passion and time to really make everything not only tasty but beautiful, the way they present it, etc., you see that creativity come to
So
life.
Angela, when we boat in the summer, we'll go out for 6 or 8 weeks, and there are no grocery stores. We anchor the whole time, and I will have between 3 to 14 people on board as they fly in and fly out. And so I create a series of recipes and bring the food on that we can freeze. And then along the way, we catch fish, we get clams, oysters, shrimp. Our son scuba dives, brings up whatever. And so we literally have to create what we caught that day.
Wow. That is fascinating. Oh
So
my
yeah,
God.
it's I actually wrote a cookbook around it of the of
Well, yes, I think that's brilliant. I mean, that's so unique. What a
yeah,
unique story.
it's an interesting lifestyle that we have created.
I love it. Well, and the interesting thing is that when you talk about writing that new chapter and you find the courage. I mean, I'm thinking that to anchor for 6 or 8 weeks and fish for your food and create as you go, if that is not an inner courage and an inner resilience, and people say, oh, what a beautiful lifestyle, and it is, but that takes a level of new thinking.
Yeah.
It takes a level of resilience. It takes a level of courage and the ability and capability of recognizing that um, you might fail
Oh
and that
yeah,
that's okay, right? I mean, you might, and I think you can fail in the kitchen. I mean, we fail in the kitchen all the time, right? um
absolutely.
Failing in creating is what is, so it's like a little bit of the, on a much lesser dramatic scale, but a little bit like the circumstances surrounding Lahaina, in that what can break through and come forth out of that darkness, out of that challenge, is so exquisite, can be,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Now we have a few minutes left, and I just want to invite, if anyone else is on here that would like, Joan, if anyone would like to bring their visual and or audio on, you don't have to bring your visual on if you'd prefer just to speak. I invite you to share any aspect of your journey, how you find courage, how you cultivate your creativity. You can share that with us now in the last few minutes. You're welcome to do that. And if you pop up and I see you, I'll invite you. And if I don't, it's okay too. But I just appreciate you being here either way. So what I'd like to invite you, Deanne, to come on again and talk. I want to hear more about this lifestyle that you lead and how you have designed it. And I think I shouldn't say past tense, because it sounds like you're always designing a new aspect into it. And
Mhm.
that's what I keep hearing, right? Is that this happened and then this happened and then we did this and then we do this and then we have people in and we do this. And that's like an ongoing act of creation. Yeah.
It is indeed.
Oh, how big is your family? How do people come from all over to visit you on the boat?
Um, no, it's mainly our family from Seattle, extended nephews, nieces, the surgeon.
The surgeon. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a
Wow.
son and a daughter, and they each have children and spouses. And the float plane is what brings them to us,
Okay.
to this one little area that has a barge that comes in once a week with food, and we can pick up greens from there. But often we
So you
go a
do
couple
get some
days.
fresh produce and things. You do get some
Right,
able to get fresh
right. We
produce.
we move our anchorage every several days as we head north. We went to Haida Gwaii a couple of years ago, where there's still totem poles, and you know, that was just an eye-opening experience. And no food there. I mean, you know, you're foraging. We tried eating seaweed and different things along the way. Anyway, yeah, sure. There's a lot.
That's a yes. I mean, because I'm leaning in and I'm like, what? It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, I want to thank you for taking time to share a glimpse of your life and where you're at. And I would love to, as in my own journey of learning healing. And I have done some. I've done some for myself. I've done some for my daughter, but really deepening my practice around it with very focused intention over the coming months and years as I see it. Yeah, I'd love to have an offline conversation with you as well about
I
that.
love that.
Yeah, that'd be really wonderful, and I would so appreciate. So it looks like we're going to wrap for today. We're almost done with the hour. I want to, for those who are here now with us, and those who will watch this over time, I want to invite you to come on once a month and share your story, shine a light in your corner of the world as to how you're cultivating new chapters for yourself, for your family, your community, and how you're finding that courage and building that resilience for the world that we now live in and we will live in for the coming years. Who you're surrounding yourself with, how you're practicing day to day, being mindful, staying present, keeping your energy flowing and keeping your energy high. Um, we are all in this together, and we are stronger together than we are divided. So the premise of this show is to demonstrate how it is that you, in your own way, are living well today. You can see previous episodes and upcoming episodes at angelamoonin.com, as well as on my YouTube channel. And you just look up my name, Angela Moonin, YouTube, and you'll find me there. And I offer, because I work a lot in storytelling, I offer words of the week, a new word each week. And this word this week was exquisite, which I promised myself I would work into using more and more because it's not a word I use very often. I don't think many people do. We think of it as it relates to fine jewelry or something delicate. I think there's an exquisiteness in the way that many people are choosing to live now and to find the beauty in nature, to find the exquisite healing, deep, profound healing that's available through nature. And it's an adventure. It's an adventure. And I thank you, Deanne, for sharing your adventure because wow, I'm just blown away right now. And I'm so thrilled for you. And I'm so thrilled for your husband. And yes, please be writing your stories down because what a story it is. God bless to you and all that are here with us today. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.